Hank isn't this American stereotype. He's not this overconfident, bombastic, insensitive guy.
He's incredibly humble, and he's not the type to chant USA, USA #1,
He has this power, but at the same time he has this incredible patience throughout the whole episode that he's not presented as a critical stereotype of Americans. It's actually Thomas, the British locomotive, who is the one that causes all the inconvenience and causes everything to go wrong in the episode, and Hank's patience is what carries it.
Yeah, that's something that I really just adore about Hank, is that I think he's one of the most patient engines on Sodor, for sure.
If not the most,
Yeah. I would even say the most patient. And to be fair, at the beginning of the episode, Hank approaches Thomas and he's like, well, you're too small to pull that heavy train. Let me help. And it's like, he doesn't mean to be insulting, but that is an insulting thing to say. Especially, knowing what we know about Thomas and the fact that his whole life...
that would have set him off. And it did.
Hank has immense power, right? I think that Gordon, Henry, and James, when they first hear about Hank, they would probably be trying to snipe him from the first day. Like, oh, we got to get him into our crowd, right? Imagine what he could do for us, right? Maybe he's an American engine. They like goods trains or freight trains or whatever they call them over there. Maybe he can take some of our goods. Maybe Henry doesn't ever have to take goods again, right? They're having those sorts of thoughts. And then Hank arrives. He spends the entire first day with Thomas. And that would be infuriating to Gordon, Henry, and James. It's like, Hank would finally come back to like the mainline sheds, and Gordon and Henry and James would be looking at him a little weird, and Gordon would be like, so, did the Fat Controller make you spend the day with Thomas? And Hank says, oh, well, yeah, it was his idea for him to show me around, but I had a lot of opportunities to go and do other stuff, but I liked hanging out with a little guy. There's a slight gasp, but they're like, oh, what? How? And it's like, well, he wasn't annoying or pesky or, he has a short fuse, sure, but, who doesn't? It's like, they're all just looking at him weird. Like, how did you... sorry, you're this enormous American engine, and yet you're, tolerating this tiny little tank engine?
I think even size aside, I think even a character like Neville or Murdoch would look at him a little weird, because he spent the whole day with one of the most infuriating personalities on the entire island.
He has this very simple worldview, I think, where he looks at problems, he looks at other people's struggles, and he thinks, well, that's not too complicated. Just gotta be nice to people. And, that's the answer to, most of his problems. And it works most of the time. And that's something that's actually pretty beautiful, is that, his worldview is simple. He doesn't get caught up in all the minutia. He doesn't care about the big expresses and grandeur like Gordon does. He's not obsessed with his paintwork like James is.
And he's not obsessed with the little things, even things that would be annoying to other engines.
It's water off a duck's back with him.
Yeah.
He and Porter would get along great. And not just because they're American. No. But because they view the world very similarly, in that they're gonna let the difficult stuff go. It's gonna just wash right over them, Hank, I feel like, is very in touch with his emotions, but he's got a hard exterior. Hank's the type of guy that he's like, go on, punch me. What? Punch me in the face. Go on. It's just to get their anger out. And then you punch him and he's like, you feel better? And they're like, yeah, a little bit.
I could imagine that, by this time in the 50s, the Fat Controller might be looking for a nice big goods engine.
Yeah, maybe.
And this is before really preservation dieselization becomes this absolute death knell. And the Fat Controller is looking for an engine like a Hank who can really take those heavy loads.
Yeah.
He visits the U.S. and sees Hank. And this is in 1955, 56. They're being withdrawn anyway, and the Fat Controller kind of feels bad leaving Hank behind.
Yeah. I could see Hank arriving in the 50s. I think this is a pretty solid story for him, is that he arrives in the 50s in order to deal with a really heavy workload. That's why it's not unusual that a steam engine is arriving at this time, but it makes sense because over in America, Hank is being withdrawn, but here, he has another 10 years of being a normal locomotive. And even past then, of course, because this is Sodor, so, you know.
He's still gonna be, like, the strongest engine on the island for many years.
Gordon is just this ardent nationalist, you know. He's this kind of queen-praising, kind of, you know...
Queen-pulling, too.
Yeah, queen. He's this queen-pulling, you know, flag-saluting, just like, you know... He loves Britain, right? I get that vibe off of him. And he's proud to be British.
If Duke is proud to be British, Gordon is like 10 times that.
Yeah. Everything that he is, he's intensely proud of, to an unhealthy degree. And I'm sure his nationality is among those things. And so, seeing Hank on Sodor, he would immediately dislike him. He's like, he's not our kind. And it's like, you know...
And it's funny because Hank is the opposite of all of those...
I know.
You know, idealizations that Gordon talks about. Yet Hank is the one that wears his nation's colors.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing. I would just love to see an interaction between the two of them, though, because it's like I'm imagining prior to this scene, he tells Henry and James, "Stay out here. I'll deal with him." Gordon just thunders into the shed, right? Goes and fights with Hank, you know, blabber and spit as he speaks, and he's just like, you know, "You are not welcome here. You're ruining the homogeny of our wonderful island." It's like, you know,
look at your cow catcher. And Toby's in the back corner, like, Gordon.
Oh my god. I'm imagining Hank would have his eyelids drawn, like he would kind of look exhausted and kind of a little bit annoyed, but he would be waiting patiently, not even trying to get a word in, just waiting for Gordon to finally tire himself out, you know. "And that's another thing. You speak. I'm out of steam." and Hank's just like, "All right. Well, I respect how well you pull the express." And Gordon just cocks an eyebrow. He's like, "What? I respect you." "But I just..." It's like, you know...
No one can pull the express like you, Gordon.
I agree with you. Just totally, through his patience, he just dismantles Gordon's everything. And then after he talks to Hank, he comes out of the shed and he's like, I like him." And Henry's like, "What? You can't!" I'm sorry. I don't know what happened in there. He's so damn nice!
Handsome! He's so damn handsome!
And then they get married.
I love you, Gordon.
But you're my great uncle!
Oh no!
This was derailed badly. It's interesting because I think Hank would have so much more compassion for the Diesels, not because he's perfect, but because he's 10 years ahead of everybody else. This happened in the US, and he probably got mad at the Diesels and feared them just like the engines on Sodor do. But that's over for him.
And he probably knows what's coming before everyone else.
Like, I wonder if Hank would feel guilty. He arrives in the 50s, right? Everybody's thinking steam will last forever, and he knows it won't. Like, he's seen it. He knows for sure.
But he doesn't want to freak everyone out by
so,
being
like,
the end times guy.
Yeah, so what is he supposed to do? I like the idea...
That really fuels his personality right there, what you just said. Hank comes over, and there's this melodrama about, you know, Percy sobbing to Hank about engines being cut up even, and, you know, Hank is like, well, you know, that's the way it goes, but, you know, the most we can do is just, you know, hold our heads up high and keep doing what we're doing. We're very lucky to be where we are. And that's one of the most valuable things that Hank contributes. And that's certainly why, you know, the loading gauge issue aside, I don't want to sacrifice him. I don't want to let him go.
Yeah.
There's so much here. It's funny because I think that even Hank might be a better listener than even Edward or Boko. You know, I think sometimes we hold Edward up as like the pinnacle.
Edward is a little bit too focused on trying to solve problems sometimes. Where I think Edward is thinking, what's the solution to this given crisis, right?
Edward doesn't always realize that sometimes people just need to vent. And so Hank fills that gap.
Yeah. Say Molly comes to a shed that Edward and Hank are at, right? And she comes to them with a problem. And she says, Gordon's been so mean to me lately, and and Edward would be like, I'll have a word with him, and whereas Hank would be, now hold on, Edward, don't get those little wrinkles in your forehead.
That's sweet.
So Molly, what did he say to you, dear?
She threatened to take my coaches away.
Edward's response would be like, that the Fat Controller would never let that happen. Where, he's giving a practical response. Yeah. Whereas Hank would be like, well, that's not fair at all. You deserve those coaches. It would be more like he's showing her that she's valuable and worth it. He's kind of undoing the emotional damage Gordon did. Whereas Edward is kind of like, he's like a parent trying to stop his kids from tearing each other apart. He's just grabbing them by the collars, just being like, no, calm down. Whereas Hank is just kind of like, he's like the friend just kind of sitting there with his arms folded, just listening and nodding and oh, I see. Oh, that's terrible. Hank's gonna go and comfort that engine, right? But he's not gonna stand up to Gordon unless he absolutely has to. He doesn't, because I think
that is his cynicism. I think he just thinks that things can't change.
That's true, but also I think Hank is a little bit uncomfortable with standing up to anybody because he knows he can be terrifying. If Hank kind of backed Gordon into a corner, Gordon would be all wide-eyed and, hold on, I'm your friend here. And Hank's like, I'm not threatening you, Gordon, I'm just trying to talk. I know.
Here, take my wallet.
If he were human, he would be reaching, underneath the desk to hit the button to call, the security.
All units, we have a code red. Code red! Code red! Do not attempt to move or we'll be shooting ourselves.
Also, it's the fact that, in order to be confrontational, he would have to believe he can solve the problem himself.
Yeah.
And considering what happened to him in America, where he had to accept the fact that the system is going to have him destroyed and that there's nothing he can do about it, I think Hank is past the point of believing that he can change the world. What he could do over in America is comfort his friends that were on the sightings. He could tell them, it's all right, you can appreciate the time you have left, and, is there anything you want to tell me before you go, and those sorts of things, right? But he's not going to try to fix the situation. He's not like Oliver. He's not going to say, I'm going to escape. He's not that daring. He doesn't believe that can be done. A lot of the characters have serious baggage, and to an extent, Hank does too, but he's kind of overcome it. And you rarely see that with characters. Usually, they're just brought down by it for the rest of their life. Gordon is brought down by the loss of his brothers for the rest of his life. James is brought down by his own vanity the rest of his life. But Hank looked Scrap in the eyes and said, I'm not going to let you change who I am. I'm not going to let you control my life. And he accepted it. And by doing that, he's become a better person than most of the engines on Sodor.
I think what this discussion has shown is that Hank is exemplary of a character who is very much at peace and in tune with the reality of everything going on around him.
Yeah.
But his emotional intelligence really makes him such a nice engine for the whole Northwestern Railway really to lean on. All in all, Hank is such a valuable character that I wouldn't want to let him go, and he's one of the greatest things about the new series, who's also one of the most underrated parts of the new series.
Yeah.